It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome in. It's the Full Court Press. I'm J.D. Walker, joined by my co-host in crime, Stockton Jewkes, the Aggie Game Day crew coming over and helping on the Full Court Press. It's kind of great to be here today with you, Stockton. How you doing?
It's great. I can't believe they keep giving me microphones to yap about sports for hours on end. This is so fun.
It's kind of crazy that we get to do this, but looking forward to it. So much stuff to talk about going on in the world of sports today. Looking around the world, some big NFL trade news came out already. You got Stockton in full Atlanta Falcons gear right now.
Always.
The Seahawks and Falcons play later this week. I don't want to talk about it because I wore a Steve Largent jersey in here about a month ago to brag to Jason Walker for beating the Patriots, and guess what? That didn't turn out too well. We've been defeated since. So you can join the conversation too. Hit us on the Full Court Press text line. What do you want to talk about? We got Aggie Magic that took place last night. Jason Walker was there, was able to follow along a little bit. Got to find a place to put that family time in there. So Monday, generally family time at the Walker household. So we're hanging out there. And also we're going to look at the Cache Valley Media Players of the Week. We'll get that text from Jason. Some amazing Friday Night Lights under the football. But you were telling me we got some Super Bowl announcement stuff going on?
Yeah, we do. Big shout out to my pops, actually, Brett and his team over at AMB for getting that Super Bowl bid in 2028 back to Atlanta. Fun fact about that, Atlanta hosted the Super Bowl back in 2019. When we moved down to Atlanta and Dad took on the job that he's got now, his first project was actually to win that Super Bowl bid in 2019. So it's cool that he's able to do that a second time now, and hopefully it'll be one where the Falcons are contending to maybe play in their own stadium. I know it's never happened before in NFL history, but the timing seems to be right. And, maybe Michael Penix will be playing in his first Super Bowl in his home stadium, but we'll see. It's a long ways out.
Was that 2020?
2028.
2028. And still time for Tom Brady to unretire and come back.
Don't ever say that to me again.
But also NFL news, kind of, Raiders fans, how are you feeling today? On the Pat McAfee show I saw this morning, I don't know if you saw this, Stockton, but they checked in with Aaron Rodgers as they do every week, and Aaron kind of looked off to the side of the screen, and guess who showed up? Davante Adams. The former Raiders is now joining Aaron Rodgers in New York. Thoughts on Aaron Rodgers now being the fantasy football GM of the New York Jets?
It's interesting. I mean, I'm not too surprised that they are doing what he is asking them to do. This seems like it seemed like from the time they signed Aaron Rodgers, it was a very much, we've got 2 years to make this work, and we're going to do everything in our power to make this work, and then it's a full rebuild on the other end of this thing. So not too surprised, but I was surprised that Davante Adams was on property for the Jets like 15 minutes after that trade news broke. So he was right there ready to go, and I think it'll be a good option for Rodgers, but he hasn't had the best first third of the season so far, so it'll be there's still some questions about how well he'll be able to use Davante Adams in the next couple weeks.
If you want to join the conversation, 435-339-0321. That's 435-339-0321. We talk about this subject or a range of others. If you're at Aggie Madness, you want to talk the upcoming Lobos game, you want to talk Jazz, you want to talk Utah Hockey Club. I know we experienced our first loss yesterday. Anything you would like to talk about, hit us up on the Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321. So yeah, I gotta think there's a little tampering in that world that we're dealing with there with Adam and everything and stuff like that. So, and the Raiders are just one of those franchises that'll whine enough to kind of jump in there and make things happen. But what do you think? What What do you think we should do with kind of situations like this? Do you think something needs to change where, hey, it's obviously Aaron was buddy-buddy with this guy, calling him up and say, hey, let's go play in the backyard and throw it around a little bit. And, 15 minutes and then being on campus to be announced. That's kind of, that could be some tampering stuff.
Well, it could also just be that his agent had him in the loop, and they obviously finalize deals well before it's publicized. And so these guys know where they're going to go. Usually, I mean, you hear stories all the time of these guys finding out about their trades from Twitter, and their front offices don't even have the decency to reach out and let them know that they're going to be moving. But for the most part, all these things are done before it gets out to social media, and so he probably knew that he was going to need to be near the Meadowlands, and so it's a good trade, I think, and I'm not sure if tampering is exactly the right word, but there is definitely some influence from Aaron Rodgers in what the Jets are doing with some of their off-the-field moves.
So also to go along with that today, Amari Cooper goes from the Browns to the Bills, which is kind of ironic. The Bills sent Stephon Diggs to Houston in the offseason. So Josh Allen gets another weapon there. Of course, Rodgers playing that fantasy football GM out there. Just kind of weird to see October trades happen. I know that the deadline's been moved. It's back to the first week in November. So it'll be interesting to see if anything else comes up. I'm trying to think other in the NFL world last night. I've just been footballed out, to be honest with you. It started last Thursday, Friday with our homecoming game. Saturday, we had the USU parade, watching football all day. And Sunday and Monday, I just kind of took off and wasn't really paying attention to the sports world to try to, balance that work-life balance and everything like that. But it was a good week of football coming in. But the Bills and Jets last night, Aaron Rodgers, they keep putting this guy on prime time. But why do they keep putting this guy on prime time with the wrong shade of green on his helmet? Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers as Packers, next level legendary. They go somewhere else. It's like they lose that magic cheese sauce. And they're still good players. They're still elite athletes and everything, but they don't have that Lambeau magic, and it seemed to fade. And, last night, that was pretty much a must-win game for the Jets. I mean, they're now 4-2, trade for, 2-4, and the Bills are 4-2. Sometimes I get dyslexic with my words and my numbers.
It's easy to get them flipped back and forth.
But, Rodgers didn't have a bad game, but it's like you wonder, maybe there were some more pieces around him and some talent that was able to work a little bit more. It's the same thing when you saw Brett go to Minnesota and then you saw him go to New York and, he did the aging quarterback tour. It's one of those things where, man, you got to be, if you're the New York Jets, you paid a lot for hopefully a championship, but it's not looking that way.
Well, and the other thing that you noticed, too, they said this on the Manning cast. They had Bill Belichick on there at one point last night, but Aaron was kind of getting beat up last night. Like, he's getting bumped a lot. He's having to move a lot, and he's old. He's not a mobile quarterback anymore. He's not given the time that he really needs. And, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 84.4 quarterback rating to this point in the season. That's kind of where, Davante Adams is a great trade, but is he going to be able to get Davante Adams the ball? Is he going to have the time to get Davante Adams the ball? Is he going to be creative enough to get the ball where it needs to go? And I'd like to see the Jets use a little bit more Breece Hall, too. I feel like he's not getting the touches that he should, even though he's got 83 carries on the season. That's 6 games. That's a little over, 12 carries per game. So you'd like to see a little bit more of that, especially with the fact that Rodgers is just not really living up to who he was 5-6 years ago. That should have been expected, though, right? Like that you can't expect the guy to be Lambeau Rodgers from 10-12 years ago.
Why not, man? We're fans. We're fanatical. It's got to be like that. Just going over the full court press is with J.D. Walker. Stockton, Jewkes. We're in for Eric and Jason. Eric taking some time off with family, and Jason is on that road trip to Viva Las Vegas. We're not sure if he's going to get married down there. I wanted to buy Elvis in one of those chapels or something like that, but we do know
that's what he got the haircut for.
Okay. That's the haircut. But he's down there for Mountain West Media Day for basketball, so we're going to be checking in with him, I think, tomorrow. And I think he's going to have one of those, like flamingo dancer girls hats on, as he does all the interviews. So that's the picture I have in my head. So that's why we're filling in for Eric and Jason and not your normal full court press. If you want to join us and join the conversation, you can always text the full court press text line. Looking around the world, we've got the Guardians and the Yankees coming up a little bit later today, just kind of doing a national look around. No hockey tonight, but we can discuss the game yesterday. It was a little different for people in Utah to say, why on earth are we having 11 a.m. hockey on a Monday? Well, happy Canadian Thanksgiving, everybody. That's how it goes. We have some international and national holidays. Boxing Day is another day where hockey takes over.
Day after Christmas.
Yeah, there's
sun up to sundown.
Yeah, it is just nonstop. It's like the present that doesn't stop the day after Christmas.
Awesome.
So they took their first loss yesterday 3-0 to the New Jersey Devils. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen a lot of it's been fun to watch the pendulum swing for the Utah Hockey Club fans. I'm a Golden Knights fan, but to have a very second favoriting to this local team. Watching the fans respond has been really cool, but we weren't going to go undefeated. That's not going to happen in hockey.
No, 82-0. I don't think I'll ever see that in my lifetime.
Yeah,
I don't think it's possible.
I mean, maybe if we're playing, NHL 25 and we've got all the sliders changed to us. But looking at the Utah Hockey Club, a very fast start. We knew this team could score. Defense is going to be what it is. Jersey going down for an unlimited, undisclosed amount of time. That's going to be a rough one when you lose one of your top-line defensive men. But the thing, Stockton, to me that stuck out about the Utah Hockey Club, and if you want to chime in, hit the full court press text line, is the goaltending. I know Connor Ingram's been getting a lot of love for some of the immaculate saves he made. One of the immaculate saves was because he was out of position. It's one of the areas for this team that could be detrimental. You're not going to win very many games in hockey doing 5-6, or the other night Ottawa and the Kings had like 8-7 shootouts. So we're going to have to look and see about the goaltending for our hockey club.
Yeah, in their defense, Ingram wasn't the one in net yesterday. And he's still 3-0. He's got an .874 save percentage. So
that's true. But Vejmelka, I think it is. Yeah. He's actually like on pace with Ingram. The guys just didn't score. That was the problem this game. They got shut out, and Vejmelka held him, and I'm butchering his name, but to 3. And I've been collecting this dude's sports cards forever, so I know this kid. I know his story. But that's going to be the thing for me is the goaltending.
Well, I think the risky thing and the thing they got caught out with the Devils yesterday is they're very aggressive in the neutral zone. That's how they scored a ton early on against the Blackhawks, is they were just jumping through pucks between the blue lines, and they're doing a lot of really crisp passing, but that aggression leaves them shorthanded on the back end. And so, when they're not winning those 50-50 pucks in the neutral zone, they're getting beat on the other end. Devils, obviously going up against the second goaltender for Utah Hockey, who's starting his first NHL game this season, is a little bit of a helper there. But Utah only put 20 shots on for the whole game. That's one shot for every 3 minutes of the game. That's not nearly enough offense. And for a team that was scoring a ton of goals early on, you've got to keep that clip up, because at the end of the day, your goaltender's not going to have a shutout, a 1-goal game all the time. It's often going to be 5-2, 5-3.
And this team does not have the goaltending skill or talent, I'm going to say, level to
when you
expect
talk about
shutouts
S-tier
and stuff.
goaltenders in the NHL, there's probably 5 or 6 of them across the whole league, and then everyone else is you got to generate some offense. So
yeah, there's goaltenders out there. It's why there's some talk when Swayman was still available from Boston, and they botched that contract stuff. People saying, no, we're great with Ingram. No, you don't understand. There is a level out there of goaltending that is elite and can lead you to the promised land. If, the defense needs to be shored up, if the defense is shored up a little in front of them, it can elevate, but it's only so far that it can go. Sureskin, I believe, was going for 8 years, $11 million a year. That, in hockey, that is a stupid amount of money to be paying a goalie, but that's where we're kind of trending to. You see that going there. So it'll be interesting to see how, with the guys out, Jersey out, who's going to step in. Marino's still out on that back line too. And maybe a little bit of the results, Stockton. Tell me what you think about this. You're a hockey guy. A road trip. You know, you got the excitement of the season. You take off across. You get the first 3 in the bag, and you're still go, go, go. You know, that takes a lot out of you to be on that road trip, and they're still technically on it. I believe tomorrow they'll be in Anaheim.
Yep, they're going coast to coast.
So that's a lot on an athlete's body.
Yeah, and it's only one travel day, so they got lucky having the 1 p.m. East Coast puck drop yesterday, because that means they can get out of town and fly to Anaheim last night. So they're probably in California all day today. Puck drops at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, so they've got a longer recovery than if it was just a straight up, Monday night to Wednesday night. That said, it's still, traveling. Anyone can tell you this. Traveling just on its own takes a lot out of your body, even though you're going and sitting down for X amount of hours. It's exhausting. And it's the same for a professional athlete. Even with all of the extra precautions they take, the disciplined meal times, the disciplined diets and regiments and workout routines and sleep routines and all this kind of stuff that they do and study throughout the year, still exhausting. So it's going to be nice for them to come home after, the Anaheim game tomorrow night. They've got a couple days off. They're home Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then they're back on the road next Saturday. So they'll have a good turnaround there. But yeah, no, it does get exhausting. And there's a little bit of kind of a bird chasing you when you've got that 2-0, 3-0 record as the team, the new team. And everyone's kind of surprised that you're taking out the Islanders in overtime on the road, the Rangers in Madison Square Garden in overtime. That's impressive. So it's going to collapse at some point. I think it's good that it happens now, because now it's out of the way. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, the thoughts of going undefeated in an NHL hockey season are just too brutal.
It's just never going to happen.
Yeah, I think the Oilers had a magical run of 15 or 16 games. They went undefeated last year. 60
wins is almost unheard of. Bruins got to 60 wins a couple years ago, and everyone was like, oh my goodness, that's insane. They get bounced in 7 games in the first round. Yeah. Hockey's that crazy.
Yeah, that's the way you do. You can exert the whole regular season, exert everything out there. And then you reach the playoffs, and it's a gauntlet. It's Mad Max style out there, elimination stuff. So it is a very long road for our Utah Hockey Club. Anybody standing out from the group that you see so far?
Clayton Keller was a beauty of a pick for captain. Oh, Clayton's so good. And I remember, because I was in the Delta Center during that first game, I managed to sneak away, and I was standing in one of the portals at Center Ice when they did their whole introduction. When they brought Clayton Keller on as the last guy introduced during the lineup and everything, the place went absolutely nuts. And he has been a beauty this season. I think he's got 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points already through 4 games. It's crazy numbers for the guy, and he's been so fantastic as a leader for this team. One of the other things that stands out for me, too, is you've heard them say this in the media a little bit here and there, but playing in front of energy like that in an arena full of fans now instead of an 8,000-seat NCAA rink it changes the way you play the game. You just feel better. So I think you're seeing that in the way they play, and I think you'll continue to see that when they get back home.
We're here on the Full Court Press. J.D. Walker, Stockton, Jewkes hanging out for Eric and Jason, who are out for the next couple of days. We're going to go ahead and take a break real quick, and we'll be right back to talk more. I think next, let's get into our matchup this Saturday. We'll do a little Aggie game day preview, go through our Lobos that we're going to be fighting. And
we're going to talk about playoff baseball at some point, too.
Yeah, we'll get to playoff baseball just a little bit later. We'll cover everything and anything you want to. If you want to join us on the Full Court Press, you're more than welcome to do that. We'll be right back here on The Fan.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York. Install confidence.
Wolf, Sub-Zero, Thermador, and more. Your favorite luxury brands are right here in Cache Valley. This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. We sell, service, install, and offer warranties on all our products. You will get the best pricing at Daryl's, including exclusive builder pricing for new builds and remodels. Don't forget instant rebates that save you thousands. Call, text, or drive out for a free consultation with one of our appliance experts. Top-of-the-line appliances deserve top-of-the-line service only at Daryl's Appliance West on Airport Road.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Man, this is taking me back. You know this CD, 16 Stone by Bush. Do you know what a CD is, Stockton? I know we're going back there a little bit. It's the Full Court Press. J.D. Walker and Stockton Jewkes in for Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker. And yes, that CD, 16 Stone by Bush, the most stolen CD out of my white Camaro back in the day. I had to buy it 5 or 6 times.
Listen, I still remember when my parents had an old Isuzu Rodeo, and there was a cassette player in the front of it. So I'm not that young.
An Isuzu? Isuzu. I like an Isuzu.
Whatever it is.
So looking forward to our matchup this week. We've got the Lobos coming to town. And right now, nationally across the board, just a straight up pick 'em. Right, Stockton? It's one of those things where it's kind of, I've seen some lean a little bit to the Lobos way, but, you know.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up being whoever wins this game is going to have to score 50 points type of game. They've both scored a lot of points in some games this year, and Utah State has shown that their offense is capable of scoring a lot of points at times. So I think as long as they don't get themselves in a hole in the first half like we've seen for the last couple weeks, then yeah, it'll be a shootout, and they can be competitive. That's the other thing with this remaining Utah State schedule, too, is they should be competitive in all of these, if not 5 out of the 6 remaining games that they've got on the schedule. So this New Mexico game, just kind of looking at the numbers, looking at the line and everything, the over-under is 77.5. So they're expecting a combined 78 points in Vegas.
I believe it's the highest point total of the week across the board.
I would be surprised if we get to potentially a combined 100 points. It would have to be a pretty flawless offensive game for both teams, and it would have to be a not great defensive game for both teams. But looking back at some of New Mexico's score lines this year, to open the season at Arizona, it was 61-39 for Arizona. When they beat New Mexico State a couple weeks ago, they combined for 90 points. They won 50-40. And the Air Force game was 52-37 a couple days ago. So high point totals, I think, is what we should expect. And, you know, with the Aggies, too, you look at the last two, 50-34, 62-30. High point totals when you combine them. But for Utah State, when you look at the box score, they're scoring all those on the back end of those games against, you know, deeper in the depth chart. So with this New Mexico team, you've got to stay on pace with them early on. You can't turn the ball over early on. So they could combine for 100 points or more total if it's not a turnover fest.
Yeah, it's quite impossible. And I think going back and looking at the stuff, Spencer Petras, and really looking at his season and what's going on and the type of quarterback he is, I think I've made the epiphany of myself that I am going to bloviate about play calling. And the play callers are not going to be here in 6 months. And so as frustrating as that is all to see, I've tried to take that and really look at Spencer's season and look at the fact that the mode that he's kind of into gives me as the gunslinger quarterback mode is where he seems to just open it up. There was that play, we went 5 wide. They held great coverage, UNLV did, but Petras was able to move. He was able to avoid some pressure, move out to the side, and the veteran doing what the veteran does, Royals, doesn't give up on the play, moves to the side. They both find each other. And so you just got to realize with a gunslinger quarterback like that, you're going to get those pop balls. You're going to get those balls wrestled away because he is going to jam it in there and give your receivers a chance to win. So looking back at the turnovers that have been involved when Petrus is into play at quarterback, there are some of those that you just have to chalk up now. And looking at where he's rated in the Western, stats, he's actually above average compared to all the quarterbacks, doing pretty good. You take away some of those really iffy, I call like roll of the dice plays where, it bounces off a receiver's hands or something like that.
It's the last pick he threw this last weekend for me I think it was early in the fourth quarter where it's just a bit of a low throw and Tia goes down trying to save that ball off the turf and it just pops straight up in the air. Yeah.
And so that was my Aflac moment this week as I was looking through stuff. And the other thing was, the play calling is going to be the play calling. The run option, play action with the field general gunslinger quarterback's never going to be the way that I would build a program. But apparently it's the way they want to run the offense. So
yeah, I think you and I have kind of agreed on this where we've said our piece for the most part on Aggie Call about how we feel about the play calling and stuff, and we're not the ones making the play calls. We're not the ones playing the game. So there's a lot that we can say from a third-person perspective. But I just, Petrus is a great quarterback when he's throwing the ball. His completion percentage is great. He's 104 for 159, which is fantastic.
And that even includes those oops balls and stuff. Yeah,
almost,
so it's like
almost 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns to the 6 interceptions, and a couple of those picks you can, maybe scrub off the board if they bounce a different way. But all that said, you got to let him throw the ball more. You have to. And I think against this New Mexico team, you can't ask Petrus to keep running the ball because we saw with that fumble on Saturday on Friday night that he is just not a running quarterback, and that's not a slight on Spencer Petrus because you don't have to be a running quarterback to be a good quarterback. They're calling a Bryson Barnes game with Petrus behind center, and I think you need to let him sit there and throw the ball a little bit more.
And that's kind of where I came to peace with it. 9315 texting in. What tricks are we going to pull on Eric and Jason, seeing as they're not in the studio today? Well, they're not in the studio for several days. So I have thought about several things. We might relocate the studios. I was talking to the big boss up front, maybe move it to a more tropical location. We're just going to
rewire all the microphones.
Rewire all the microphones. No, our engineers worked tirelessly on those.
I don't know how to rewire anything.
But we'll think of something there, 9315.
There's a real nice signed hockey stick in the corner of the studio that might not be here tomorrow.
That's grand theft, Stockton. Maybe we should put our big old faces right here on the control board when they come in. Oh, yeah.
What were those things called? The big... the fatheads. Yeah.
Stockton and JD fatheads. So we're talking about the Utah State Aggies matchup with the Lobos. Just taking kind of our first look at things. It's going to be running out the door, talking about Spencer Petrus a little bit. A solid season. You said he's about 1,200 yards passing?
Almost 1,300. It's 1,271.
So we got 6 left, right, is what I'm counting.
6 games.
And we're seeing an upswing and stuff.
He's only played 4 total. He's appeared in 5.
In 2 halves or something like that. So no red shirt possibility. I don't even think that was an option for them.
Speaking of red shirt, though, have you seen the news about Cam?
Yeah, we'll have to jump into that. But if Spencer, we're seeing 300-yard games, and we're kind of coming to the point where, hey, if we want to be competitive, that's going to be where it's at.
And again, his completion percentage is 65.4%. That's really good. That means when he's throwing the ball, he's finding his receivers a lot of the time. And again, 6 interceptions, but you can scrub maybe half of those off if they just bounce a different way.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing you're going to get with your gunslinger quarterback working it like that. But we could see a Utah State quarterback go for over 3,000 yards passing this season.
His QBR is 143.7.
Yeah, he's having a really, really solid season. If you move the unlucky stuff, the unlucky
he's just
turnovers.
Not a halfback. That's it.
Yeah, it's really odd. The situation, you want to put your players in the best situation possible, and when it comes to when you list the top 10 guys you want carrying the ball in the open field, I don't think Spencer's going to be on that list. You've got ball carriers and receivers and people for that instance. His is a distributor to get it out there. So, but still could be a really big season. How many touchdown passes does he have right now?
He's at 9 right now.
So we could reasonably see a 20 touchdown pass, 3,000 yards.
His career high on a season, he had 10 in 2021. That's when he went 165 for 288, 1,880 yards, 57.3 completion percentage. So one more touchdown and he's got a career high on a season. Just want to see him clean up some of those 50-50 balls. But again, and I know this is like it's kind of a dumb argument because the ball is like the way the ball bounces is part of the game, but if the ball bounces a little different for him, then the interception number is not that high. So to your point, that's just kind of what you get out of a guy that's going to fire some of those tight passes, because some of them are going to go the wrong way, but some of them are going to look real good.
Yeah, and it's just the matter of the game, how it is, what you have at the position and adapting at that position. If you'd like to join the conversation, 435-339-0321. That's 435-339-0321. What are your predictions for this week's matchup against New Mexico? Do you think the Aggies are going to pull it off? Do you think it's going to be a close one, a rout, a blowout? We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Full Court Press text line. Just look at the comparison back and forth. It's the same old song and dance, not to quote some Aerosmith here, but the Aggies are going to have to stop the run. New Mexico is a run team. They're passing. They average a little bit there in the passing yards, but they're really focused on the run game. 208 yards per game, about 250 through the air, but it's all through one guy. Devin Dampier. I mean, this young man had a heck of a game this past week. He really laid it on versus Air Force out there, just doing it in the air, but also doing it on the ground. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 50 yards on the ground. He's been doing consistently against I think that's North Mexico Saturn State University there.
New Mexico State?
There you go. New Mexico State University. Sometimes my abbreviations. 3 touchdowns on the ground. This young man, very skilled at doing it. Both. So you're going to have to pay attention to the play action. You're going to have to pay attention to the RPO, all that stuff. This guy might give us nightmares. And it's I don't want any more nightmares, Stockton.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the offense and offensive play calling and all that kind of stuff. But if we're really going to get into the nitty gritty, it's the defense. The defense has got to buck up. And when you give up 49 points in one half on the road, and then you come home on your homecoming and give up 41 points in one half at home, someone out there, DJ talked about this on Aggie Call this last week, someone out there has got to step up. Like, it's got to come from someone on the field now.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll see somebody in that process do it. I mean,
well, here's the thing. Ike Larson has had some flashes this year. He's had some moments where it's like, okay, maybe he can pull this momentum and keep it going. But unfortunately, he's just 1 out of 11. And Jordan Vincent, I think, has had some good flashes.
John Ross May
has had some great flashes. Like
Gabe and Inga is at front.
These individual flashes, but it's just not coming together at the right times. And so you'd like to see them. Just someone on the field has got to pull them together and some like it.
See, I got a different view on this. I see them as pieces of the orchestra. And they all play their parts. They have got their solos and stuff. And if your conductor's up there and he doesn't have what it takes right now in this situation, I mean, like if you were to be an honest grade across the board of the Utah State coaching staff, even removing everything else, your 1-5 record, you look at the defense, you were brought in to be a defensive specialist to kind of solve this. Yes, you have other stuff, but guess what? Life's hard. Get a blanket. There's all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, they've got to figure out how to coordinate. And I also saw Ike was getting some heat online about being flashy and being things. So I'm a stats guy. I like to go into the numbers and stuff. And what I saw is that he's about on the same pace for tackles, right around 100 tackles. That's his sweet spot. His 102 tackles is a big one. More picks last year. He had 4 picks compared to the one this year, but we're still seeing the same amount of defended balls and padded balls and stuff like that. Those change a couple more inches. It's there, but here's the big one that stands out. His solo tackles have gone up significantly. He is on pace right now to break the solo tackles, his high bar, by next game. So you can see some things that tells me that our safety there, Mr. Larson, he's learning like that tackling technique. He's really working that in the open field.
Well, so here's I'm going to go back to kind of the beginning of what you were saying there with the coordinators and stuff. I agree with you there. I feel like something in the scheme has to change because we've talked about this a couple weeks in a row where if they stack the box, they are completely exposed on the flats, and then you're just getting gashed outside the hash marks. If they spread out, then everyone's going to run the ball 8 to 10 yards per carry up the middle, almost uncontested. So that, to me, is where the guys on the field have got to come together and make some plays and make some tackles. Because Ike Larson, yeah, he's had some great solo tackles, but the fact that your two safeties are leading the team in tackles is an issue. Like, that itself is an issue. You've got guys flying in and arm tackling. You're missing on the first 2 to 3 points of contact on defense on a lot of these runs. And I think about the very first touch that Ashton Genty got against that team, bounced off of 5 guys on his way to the end zone, 75 yards on his first touch of the game. Like, the tackling has got to improve. And yeah, Ike and Vincent are having great seasons tackling, but it should not be coming down to them. They should not be the guys that have to bail this team out. And the other part of that too, yeah, the turnovers are not there. The interceptions are not there. They've got 3 on the season. As far as fumbles, they've got 2 forced and 1 recovered. That's it. You need more defensive turnovers. And so to me, that's where it's coming down to. Guys on the field have got to make plays now. Those couple of inches, you've got to start adjusting to cover those gaps and cover where you have seen that you've been exposed now for 6 weeks.
I understand. I see the analytic you're coming from. Another thing is this team's not built to stop the run. And if you want to lay blame on anybody, you blame that on the former coach. These are not Coach Streiling's. They are Coach Streiling's players now, but these are not the recruits he went through and he dug. Now, a couple of them, Jordan Vincent, Gabe, those guys. But on the other thing, I just really want to point out that the coaching staff needs to engage with what they have. And here, I am a stickler for remembering something you said. And Coach Streiling said, we need to adapt our system to the players we have to fit their talents. That's where I think the disconnect is right now.
The other thing that I want to mention, too, I can't remember exactly who mentioned this. I think it was someone on the text line of Aggie Call on Friday night. Utah State, size-wise, has been outmatched in almost every game this season, except for maybe with the Robert Morris game. I feel like Utah State has been outmatched when it comes down to inch for inch and pound for pound almost every weekend. And so that does come down to some past recruiting that's been going on and some things that have been going on in the past. I know there's been a lot of talk lately about coaching and administration and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to say this one time, and then hopefully we don't really have to get into this, in these next 2 days. It's not the administration. I think what they're doing there has been a little bit rocky to get going, but it's all trending in a good direction. We just got invited to the Pac-12. We did not get left behind in conference realignment for the first time in my lifetime, in decades. And so they're doing the right things. They're moving in the right direction. And I saw something else, too. We talked about this on the show this weekend. They have raised a ton of money for this program, and it's been the highest fundraising year in the history of the athletics department. So they're moving in the right direction. But the recruitment, that's going to take a lot of time to catch up to, because the Pac-12 effect is going to take some time to set in. And so we're still going to be recovering from being undersized and under recruitment and just kind of being one of the back-end football schools in the conference for now. That will all change in a couple years, but it's going to be a slow change.
Yeah, it's going to be something, this is all different in 6 months or maybe even less when you find out who the new administration is going to be incoming, taking over the football team. The new coaches are going to come in and, everybody talking about, I hope they keep so-and-so or so-and-so comes back and say, it's really one of those things where it's going to be a clean slate. Like, I don't believe anybody's staying behind to stay here. And that's kind of where I'm at with it, to kind of rooting for our student athletes on as we go throughout the season. I know it's a hot button situation. I've been dragged into it. I've been trying to stay out on the sidelines, but I've heard and seen and read comments about people that, the media here in town hates Utah State. And frankly, I work with about 99% of them and know the other 1%. And have yet to come across anybody who hates Utah State, wants to downfall, and doesn't want anything but the uplifting of the program and the student athletes on the Hills. So there's a lot of stuff out there. We're going to get more into the New Mexico matchup coming up next. We're also going to talk about our Cache Valley Media Players of the Week. We've got some great action this past week, and we're going to honor those athletes coming up next. It's the Full Court Press here on The Fan.
Ski season is coming, which means season ski rentals. This is Mark at the Sportsman, where we have over 20 years of season ski rental experience. We rent to kids and adults. Come in to get season ski rentals for your entire family. We like to wait a little later in the fall because there is a chance your kids might grow out of their boots by the time ski season actually rolls around. Starting at $69.99, you will get the right gear for your kids to ski this year at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan with tons of parking in the back.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to, I guess we call this an Aggie Game Day version of the Full Court Press. J.D. Walker, Stockton, Jewkes. We're talking about all things local sports, Cache Valley, looking at national news, all sorts of things going on. And it's time now for the Cache Valley Player of the Week, brought to you by Center Street Grill. Full menu for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The corner of Center and Main in Logan. I think we could run down there before 5 o'clock and grab something to eat. And also Blue Sky Restoration. They're your local service with exceptional standards at gobluesky.com. And it's a pretty crazy week for some high school sports there, Stockton. I saw it. You vote for the player of the week, don't you, sir?
Yeah, I didn't get to it this week. I hadn't watched any of the high school football just with everything else that was going on at the university.
We were kind of busy this week. Yeah,
just a tad.
We were kind of jumping around. But on the boys' side, basically it'd be easier to tell you what Graham Livingston from Ridgeline didn't do. I talked to his mom and dad. Apparently, he did make his bed and do the dishes and all his chores before he left, so I guess there's nothing he didn't do. 5 receptions, 85 yards, 2 touchdown catches, 1 TD pass, and a pick 6. So Graham is our player of the week. Thank you to Blue Sky Restoration and Center Street Grill. And I tell you what, Graham, the only thing I don't think he did is kick the extra points and stuff. Of course, he's got Nate thrown into him there at Ridgeline. Just an amazing football club that they got out there. So congratulations to Graham. And then on the ladies' side, I got the text from Jason just a minute ago, and it's funny when Jason calls me, like he just did during the commercial break, it comes up, it says Aggie Guru on my phone. I'm trying to figure out. And Maylee Reynolds, the Cache Valley Ladies Player of the Week, had 3 goals in one game for the Riverhawks in a 7-0 blowout over Hillcrest. Congratulations, Maylee Reynolds, and thank you to Blue Sky Restoration and Center Street Grill for sponsoring the Cache Valley Media Player of the Week. And we got some text coming in on the Full Court Press text line, Stockton.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Just kind of in regards to some of the stuff that we were talking about with the Aggie defense, going back to the football conversation, 93-15. Is our bad tackling due to me seeing the first guy trying to force the guy down or trying to tackle the shoulders or the neck? To me, it seems more of they're flying in full speed. Like those guys are breaking on the ball really hard, but it seems like they are overcommitting on certain angles. A lot of your technical coaching when it comes to especially tackling in the backfield is, those guys, especially on a run play, when they get the ball, their first couple moves are going to be, hey, I'm looking for that gap. I'm going to be moving side to side. When you're flying in really quickly at a stationary object, it's really easy for you to just miss that angle if the guy steps to the side. You can't correct when you're moving that fast and covering that much ground in that short of time. And so you're taught to sit down, kind of drop the hips, chop the feet, slow your momentum so you can figure out where that guy's going to go and go with him. You got to keep your eyes on like his midsection around that chest plate. He's not going to go anywhere without his midsection. And you got to figure out where he's going to go. But a lot of the things that I'm seeing with these Aggies is they are flying into the backfield and they're trying to make these huge tackles for losses. They're missing sideways because the guys can see him coming in. They make that slight shuffle off to the left or to the right, wherever they need to go. And then you see them with that outstretched arm, right arm, left arm, whatever it is, as they fly by, they're trying to grab some piece of the shoulder, jersey, sock, pants, whatever it is, to get him down.
We saw the defender, Faison, broke off a run, and the only thing that brought him down was his jersey. The guy just stretched the jersey out.
And sometimes you'll get lucky. You'll grab a handful of something, and you can just keep yanking on it until the guy falls down. But that's why you're missing at the point of contact a lot of the time, is because guys are going for these huge tackles, these big, loud, very violent tackles, and instead of breaking it down, just trying to stay with the guy and getting him down, wrapping him up and making sure he goes down when you go down, you're seeing a lot of guys just fly past him. And so I'd like to see, as much as those kinds of big hits, those loud hits can push momentum for you, missing it can push momentum the other way just as easily. So I'd like to see them settle down a little bit in the backfield.
So here's a question I have for the Full Court Press audience and for Stockton. Here's how I'm viewing it right now in JD's world. Looking at it, and what makes top 10 highlights on SportsCenter or any college game day show or anything like that? It's the big hits. It's the big, going in and making that big connection, that big hit and everything. And that's the highlight. That's the buzz. That's the clip that everybody gets, that everybody wants to see. But I think it's led to kind of, the youth and the youngsters watching it play up. We've got, pee-wee football leagues with turnover chains now and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I get kind of, I sound like the old curmudgeon on the porch. I'm like, when we're down 30 points, don't celebrate a first down. Don't celebrate an open field tackle after a 15-yard gain. Maybe that's old school, but is it because the big hit has become a bigger highlight and more, cred and more popularity than it actually is worth on the football field than wrapping up? It seems like wrapping up's the old way, the old conservative way. Am I anywhere close to this?
I don't know. I kind of have a foot in both camps where part of me is like, hey, if you have that energy, if you have that swagger, you may as well show it. Like it's a grown man's game. It's just sports. If you're going to get your feelings hurt by some taunting.
Okay, but it's not a grown man's game. These are college students. These are 18, 19, 20, 22 year olds. We could go on debates about that, but I understand old enough for some things, not old enough for others, but also there is a big difference. They're paid with NIL, but they're not professional. They're still at a school environment. There's still rules to follow. I think the showboating and it sucks. Every pass play, you have one of the two players calling for a flag every time. It's like, if I could call penalties on players, I would be like, every time you ask for a penalty, that's a penalty. We're going to penalize this stuff out of existence.
Well, okay, so here's where I have the foot in both camps is if you make the plays and if you have the stats to back it up, then yeah, go ahead and have that swagger, have that energy, do your thing. Because, and I've said this calling Green Canyon games, in high school football, yes, you want to win the games and yes, you want to win the state championship, and that is always going to be a goal. No one's ever going to go out there just to have fun and play the game and lose by 50. But you've got to understand that 99 point whatever percent of those kids are not going to go on and play Division I football. This is the last organized bit of football these boys will be playing. And so your main concern at the high school level is to make sure that you are building men of good character where they're going to take good habits at the sportsmanship level into the rest of their lives, and that builds them into men of good character who are respectful and who are kind to people that they meet and who are just good men in general. But with this college football where you have the best of the best from high school playing at college now, and so it is a step up. You're in the Division I level. You've got eyes on you now. And so I'm okay with a little bit more of that taunting and that talking, but I'm right there with you when if you're down by 49 to whatever at halftime, you don't get to do that anymore. Like, yeah, I'm glad you have that swagger, but if you're, like you said, making an open field tackle after a first down run on 1st and 10, stop. Like, pay attention to the context of the game. And so, yeah, the swagger is great. The energy is great if you are carrying that momentum with the rest of your team in a positive way on the scoreboard. But if you are just focused on your individual highlights at the end of a blowout game, that tells me where your mentality is for the whole season.
I think 8-9-6-8. Then we got to take a quick break here. Said it to best, kind of to heck with the big hits, fancy plays, and showboating. I just want to win.
Exactly, because when you see that showboating,
amen.
Yeah, when you see that showboating towards the end of the game, when it's that was a great loud hit, but hey, he just ran for 24 yards. It's 1st and 10 again, past the 50. You're down by 3 scores. Like, why are you so excited about that? And it tells me that your focus is on your individual stats and not on actually winning the game. And so bring that swagger, bring that energy when you earn it.
It's all in timing, if you ask me. Going to take a real quick break here on the Full Court Press. Would love to hear from you on the Full Court Press text line. We'll talk. We've got more NBA talk to come up. We're going to talk MLB playoffs. It's been the best time of the year, and more Utah State Aggies. We'll also talk about maybe falling out of the top 25 poll for the ladies soccer team. We'll discuss all that and more coming up on the Full Court Press.
Medicare, Social Security, come and be our guest the third Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m. Hi, this is Rusty Allen with LSS Insurance, inviting you to plan ahead. Come learn about your Medicare options, giving you the confidence needed to make these important decisions. Call 752-9493. The seminar is free. The information is valuable. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493 to RSVP. Come learn about your Medicare options the third Thursday, October 17th.
Clean it up and get it out before the snow flies. Don't wait another winter. Let DD Auto and Salvage pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
Football is a game of tradition. Aggie fans love the game and prepare for game day at Locker 42 with popular items like Travis Matthews or Cutter and Buck's Aggie logoed polos, Nike women's pullover hoodies, Aggie plush blankets, and Aggie seat cushions. Locker 42's wall of hats is impressive, and they have nearly 50 different beanie styles. Style, comfort, selection. Locker 42 is a store for Aggie fans by Aggie fans.
Need a reliable partner for your medical needs? Look no further than Triton Medical and Transportation. We offer top quality medical soft goods right here in your community. From incontinence supplies and oxygen needs to medical transportation. Whatever you need to stay comfortable and healthy, we've got you covered. Trust Triton Medical and Transportation, caring for our community with every step, every mile. Call us today at 435-557-6687 or visit us online at mytritonsupply.com. Triton Medical and Transportation, because your help matters.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Days get shorter, temperatures get cooler. Be prepared to stop at your local Napa Auto Parts. If your battery is more than 4 years old, stop in. They can test it before it leaves you stranded in the cold. If your new battery, they'll help you install it. Pick up a 50-pound bag of blue ice melt for $10. Be prepared for cold weather now and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts. And you better be ready for snow, Stockton. From today to Thursday, we're looking at about a 25-degree drop in temperature. So not to quote somebody from Game of Thrones, but winter is coming.
I will be the first to admit I am not built for the winter. No, sir. We lived in Chicago in the northern suburbs from 2008 to about mid-2011. And then we moved back to North Carolina, and after that down to Georgia. So I've been in the South since I was 11 and a half, since before I started sixth grade. Each winter I tell myself, no, I'm going to be a little more used to it this year. And for the last 3 years in a row, I've just been lying to myself. So I'm not even going to bother this year.
So coming up next hour, we're going to talk a little USU soccer. Unfortunately, dropping out of the rankings. We'll get into that a little bit. I'm going to kick around and talk about Stockton's experience with the Utah State volleyball team, also with the hockey team, and how we can get out there and support them also. And also your text, anything you want to talk on. But we've got about a minute and a half before we got to jump out real quick. So I'm going to drop this bomb in the room. Cam Rising down in Utah is out for the season. There are talks of his future that he will be approved for an 8th season with a medical red shirt.
Oh, dear.
And so I'm just looking at things in the card, and I'm saying Utah legendary quarterback Cam Rising hits the transfer portal, comes up to Logan, and in the spring, we have Bryson Barnes versus Cam Rising for the Utah State Aggies starting QB position. What are your first thoughts? We've got just about a minute, and then we'll come back with this after.
Number one, what on earth can we offer that man? Number two, keep that geriatric away from my football program. He's older than me, and I don't. He took one hit and looked like he had arthritis last weekend. Get that man off of the football field. It's borderline elder abuse at this point.
So just kind of crazy to think about it, but as you want to root for a young man to continue his career, probably not moving on to the NFL.
I feel like it's just everyone is hoping and praying that he's going to turn into who we thought he was going to be 2 years ago, but injuries just prevented him from ever really growing into that. And for some reason, this has been the one that everyone's so hesitant to let go of. But
it's time. It's time. And I got to be real honest before we jump out here to the break. You got to look at it. It is Isaac Wilson time for the Utes. He is their future.
He's been good.
Yeah, he's doing okay. And they're still trying to run an offense that's designed for Cam Rising. So with the coach coming out and saying, hey, you know what? Until the time being, Isaac's going to be our starting quarterback. And that's going to be how it goes. We're going to check in with Dan Patrick above the noise real quick, and we'll be back with more Full Court Press here on The Fan with J.D. Walker and Stockton Jewkes.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. The Lions have all the makings of a Super Bowl contender, but there's one thing Detroit is missing. It's now a potent pass rusher. Through 5 games, the Lions have had that thanks to former number 2 overall pick Aiden Hutchinson. But after a very disturbing injury to the Lions star this past Sunday, there's room for concern. Over the last 5 years, there are 2 things all Super Bowl champions have in common: an elite quarterback and a great pass rush. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones. The Rams had Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, and Von Miller. And the Buccaneers had the greatest quarterback of all time and a defensive line that had the team inside the top 10 in sacks in 2021. Detroit doesn't have that luxury without Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport. And with the NFC featuring high-scoring offenses like Green Bay, San Francisco, Tampa, and Washington, the Lions' chances for that elusive NFC title have taken a significant hit. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. We all know DraftKings Sportsbook makes watching football games even better. Well, now DraftKings has made their app even better with great new features like their withdrawal tracker. It shows where your money is every step of the way. When you make a withdrawal, it promptly tells you that it's processing. Then the moment your money is headed to you, and then right when it lands in your account. So you never have to wonder, am I going to get paid? It's like the tracker on your food delivery app, but instead of cold pizza, you're getting cold hard cash. DraftKings. We get you, so we got that. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for eligibility terms and responsible gaming resources.
Days get shorter, temperatures get colder. Be prepared with a stop at your local Napa Auto Parts. If your battery's more than 4 years old, stop in. They can test it before it leaves you stranded in the cold. If you need a new battery or some new wiper blades, they'll even help you install them. Pick up a 50-pound bag of Blue Heat ice melt for $10. Be prepared for cold weather and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
The NFL. Touchdown! On Sports Talk Radio.
I've been waiting a long time, for this moment.
KLGN Logan. 106.9 FM. 1390 AM. The Fan.